Kyle, I got to get your thoughts just because, again, Monty Williams is a very well-respected and loved head coach by multiple players, former teammates. What do you think about Phoenix firing him?
Oh, this is a mistake. There's no other way to put it. I think Phoenix was a little bit too premature in coming up with this decision to fire Monty Williams as their head coach. Granted, I'm fully aware of the fact that Game 6 in Phoenix was essentially a beatdown. The Nuggets just rolled in and essentially gave Phoenix what Phoenix had just suffered the year before when they lost that Game 7 in the Western Conference semifinals to
Huh.
the Mavericks. Kept the Mavs didn't even make the playoffs, so
I
stay
know I can have my fun.
not this year. But when it comes to Monty's been a great head coach for the Suns, and I think that really he was that good. I would say a good coach to develop Devin Booker to the point where he's at now, just because I just remembered like the conversation that Monty had with the Suns when they were having their bubble run, when Devin Booker was essentially on that rise that where Devin Booker's at now. He's essentially hitting his prime. I thought just he was a good coaching figure to be able to coach Devin Booker, who was still relatively young at the time, and be able to foster that development to the point where he's at now. But I think when it comes to the Suns, how are you going to let go of a really successful coach just because it didn't work out this year, even after you traded for Kevin Durant? And as far as I see it, it's a bad look when Monty Williams has to take the fall for the team just not showing up. And this was very similar to what we had talked about with the 76ers. Doc Rivers, it just got to the point in that Game 7 where he can't go out there and be able to knock down shots left and right. The players have to go out there and execute to be able to win a basketball game. And you could say the same thing about the Suns. It's Kevin Durant, Devin Booker. You could look at pretty much every player on that team in that Game 6 against Denver. They didn't show up. They didn't execute at a high level. And I think it's unfair to place all of the blame solely on Monty Williams because of that. The players definitely deserve a pretty good size of the criticism of that Game 6 performance. The fact that Monty's essentially getting fired over that, despite having a really good track record in Phoenix for the short amount of time that he's been there. I think Phoenix really screwed this up. And I don't know who they're going to bring in as a potential backup to fill in their next head coaching position. But I don't think it's going to be a better option than what they had in Monty Williams. And I imagine that Monty's going to have a nice little pool of suitors that are going to go after him this offseason, knowing that he's got a pretty good track record behind him. He's been to the finals. He's been to multiple playoff appearances in the Western Conference, which is no easy feat simply just because of how competitive the West is. So I imagine that Monty's going to get some pretty good head coaching looks over the next couple of weeks. It wouldn't surprise me, probably within the next month or two, that we hear that Monty Williams has been signed by a team to be their next head coach. But yeah, I really think that Phoenix, I think they overplayed their hand here. I think they got caught in the moment. And the fact that Monty Williams is their fall guy, I think is a really unfair move by them, because I think Monty is really somebody that could lead the Suns to a future championship. But that will no longer be the case with him getting fired by Phoenix. So it'd be very interesting to see how Phoenix responds to this. But I think when we look back at this decision, I think it's going to be a mistake, because I just don't know, when it comes to a coach that's out there to bring into the fold, that could put Phoenix in a better position to win than what Monty has done over the last couple of years. So we'll see how it works for Phoenix in the long run, but I think it's going to be a mistake.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, you're talking about a guy that not brought your franchise back from the precipice of like irrelevancy, because obviously your players also contribute to that, but they finally got a coach that was able to work with Devin Booker to the point where he was able to take his game to the next level. You go out there and you had the number one overall pick a couple years back, and you take DeAndre Ayton at the center position, who, quite frankly, may be the actual catalyst to this entire issue. Then you go and you get Chris Paul and you make some runs. You make some deep playoff runs. You go to the finals. You blow a 2-0 lead. You lose to the eventual champion Milwaukee Bucks. You follow that up with the NBA's best record. You lose in the semifinals to the Dallas Mavericks in Game 7. Not only lose, you get blown out. And then this year, you eventually face the top-seeded Denver Nuggets. You tie the series up 2-2, and you go and you lose the next two. It's unfortunate because in situations like this in sports, there always has to be a scapegoat, right? Despite head coaches not being able to actually get onto the field, get onto the court, whatever sport it may be, on the ice, they're always the first people to get chopped up because you're not going to cut a franchise player like Kevin Durant, like Devin Booker. But in this case, I think they made the wrong decision for a multitude of reasons. Now, what are you going to do when you have to restart from the beginning and create a whole new culture in Phoenix with a new head coach? Who's to say that that head coach ends up having a better relationship with his players than than Devin Booker and Kevin Durant? Kevin Durant said Monty Williams and Devin Booker were a big reason as to why he wanted to go to Phoenix. Now you just lost one of those pieces. DeAndre Ayton, I'm going to circle back to him now, didn't play in Game 6 for a rib contusion. DeAndre Ayton has also been seen multiple times putting in no effort, not hustling, and not really giving a shit body language-wise on defense. Multiple negative games in the plus-minus category, multiple games with single-digit performances, got cooked by Nikola Jokic, which, let's be respectful, most centers, most players that guard him in general get cooked because of his incredible skill set and talent. But when you're consistently getting abused and then just not getting back on defense, not caring, not chasing rebounds, not hustling, that narrative is going to carry throughout your career. Young or not, inexperienced or not, I don't want to hear it. This is your third postseason run with the team. You have tasted being 2 games away from a championship, and yet this is the performance that you go out there and put. This is the effort that you put. Then you don't play in Game 6. Again, I'm not going to sit here and critique an injury because if it's been documented, obviously that means it's real. We all know that sometimes things are exaggerated to get on the injury report to get a player out or to give them a rest day. I'm not going to sit here and accuse him. Obviously, I don't know what it's like to have a rib contusion, so it's neither here nor there. But DeAndre Ayton doesn't look like he wants to play here. He obviously at the end of last season said he wanted to play somewhere else. He got an offer from Indiana, and Phoenix matched it because they knew that he had the potential and the talent to be a good player. Him and Monty Williams had a multitude of issues. There were times where Devin Booker's talking to DeAndre Ayton, and he's not even listening. There's times that Monty Williams is talking to DeAndre Ayton to the point where it's been documented. Ayton stands up from the bench and goes to the opposite side because he doesn't want to listen to anybody. So you have lack of effort. You're not listening to your teammates or your coach, and you've publicly stated you don't want to be there and that you're unhappy. So Monty Williams gets the axe instead of DeAndre Ayton getting traded? You don't think that some of these games would have a better outcome if maybe you got him out of the game? I mean, for God's sakes, he was benched in Game 3 or 4 for a player that no one's ever heard of. You're a former number 1 overall pick. You're a max contract player. And this is what you do? You throw a tantrum because you don't get your way? That's the problem with athletes nowadays. They know that they have the power, and an innocent coach and man like Monty Williams becomes a scapegoat. I know you have Kevin Durant, and I also know that you have Devin Booker, but with Chris Paul getting up there in age and more than likely being traded per the rumors, DeAndre Ayton now probably will stay because the friction was with mainly Monty Williams. But again, there are rumors that DeAndre is going to be traded, even though he said he loves Phoenix and wants to stay. Any PR team can write a better statement than that. But again, neither here nor there. It doesn't help when you made the trade for Kevin Durant as a franchise and you emptied your bench and your key players, Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, future first-round picks, and so on and so forth. You emptied the roster, you made the gamble, you got KD, and it looked like it may have turned out to be panning out in your direction when you won those 2 games in Phoenix. But Kevin Durant went cold, man. Devin Booker went cold, man. When the lights shine bright for Phoenix, that sun is beating them in the face, right? They can't get it done. Monty Williams, a great coach. Hundreds, I feel like people have said that. Obviously, former teammates and players that have been underneath him, players that have played under him, have said he's an incredible person. So for Phoenix to do this just doesn't make sense to me. I agree with Kyle 100%. It shouldn't have been him. And in my opinion, You should have found a suitor for Ayton, kind of regroup the team, see what you get back, run it back one more time. If you let him go that time, then maybe. But now, you just got KD for less than 30 games in the year. Less than 20, actually, in the regular season because he got hurt. I didn't think that this was a smart decision by the franchise. I mean, only time will tell, right? That's what we always say on the podcast. That's what we always say in life. I just didn't think this was a good move, and he's going to be one of the most sought out and most coveted coaches on the free agent market this NBA offseason.